So you know my video on No One Asked. You know the one that got disliked, bombed by Sense fanbase. Well, this guy called ProgressionAddict decided to do a commentary on it on his DeviantArt. And that's what I'm going to respond to today. Before we begin, I would like to make it clear that I don't hold any hatred towards this guy. I think he has just misunderstood things.
Okay, before I begin writing, a little bit of context is needed for this. I initially made this commentary with the intent of posting it in the comments of doodleclones' comment section, but, for some reason, it wasn't allowing the message to be sent in the comments. So, I'm posting it in journal form instead, because I spent like 2 hours on it. I'd be mad if that went to waste.
So it seems that YouTube is being YouTube again.
Feel free to watch along with the timestamps I include as a point of reference if you feel so inclined. 0:16 to 0:32. Woo boy, this is one hell of a starting point. Clones, while I can understand your peeve with people starting the video talking about how they didn't want to make it, as it is definitely a cliche at this point. Someone could have a lot of reasons to not want to make a video, but still feel obligated to make it. For example, if someone was wrongly accused of a socially serious claim, or someone believed a public figure to be guilty of a socially serious offense, they may feel the need to make the video so that information is out there, even if they don't particularly want to make the video. Hell, this person actually said, "I see just a robot trying to spin a new narrative," and I refuse to let that happen right after your interjection.
But why does she refuse to let that happen? How is it affecting her life in any way? Also, what narrative? Please elaborate.
Sure. While the way they worded their introduction can be deemed as annoying or even disingenuous, they specifically make note of why they felt the need to make the video.
They didn't need to make it. They wanted to make it.
Even if they didn't specifically want to make it. And, as of monetization, that's really a non-issue, regardless of whether it's actually monetized or not. If someone wants to profit off of their videos, they should be fully allowed to, even if the video is more serious in nature.
I never complained that she monetized the video. All I said was that she probably made money off of it. You know what really annoys me? Those YouTubers who say, "I really didn't want to make this video." Well, if you didn't want to make it, you shouldn't have made it. And don't be such a freaking martyr. All you did was make a video. And probably got money off the monetization.
Sure. Perhaps it'd be in bad taste if it was something like an apology video, but this is an accusation video, from what I can tell. Also, you really need to cite the person you're talking about here. You don't introduce your target in the beginning of the video, their name isn't in the title, and their name and video link aren't in the description. I don't have a means of figuring out where the original video came from. This brings about a lot of problems for your video, because not only are you not allowing us to watch the video you're talking about for ourselves, but you could very well also be cutting the context out of this person's video to, in their words, spin a narrative. This would also be problematic because we can't even check the original video ourselves to see if any context was left out. I'm writing this as I watch and notice things, so I'll give benefit of the doubt for now and assume you might have mentioned a name in the future. For now, I and other viewers, however, don't know to whom you are referring to, or anything about them, which really hurts your video as the focus isn't firmly established. 0:50 to 0:56. See? This is another reason why not immediately making note of who you're talking about is an issue. They specifically make reference to a video they made that provides context, but we don't actually get the ability to see that context through this commentary because we have no means of knowing who this person is. Again, this causes us to miss out on potentially helpful context to the video being made. 2:08 to 2:15. Again, I find that you don't actually have their PFPs or channel names in the screenshots shown. For evidence like this to work, you should be looking for screenshots that include the thumbnail, the channel name, and the date of upload. We need to be able to know concretely that these videos were by the people you're talking about.
Well, here you go.
Or else we can't actually consider this evidence. This is further worsened by you not having any sources linked in your description, meaning we yet again can't even check this information for ourselves. It comes off as dishonest to portray these screenshots like this, as it leaves out important information, else this could just be two unrelated videos with the same titles, as having two of the same title on YouTube isn't disallowed. Do I think you're in the wrong for pointing out that Jar didn't make his video about prison mate Luke until after someone else defended him? Definitely not. Assuming that's the facts as they happened, you're definitely right to point that out, as it's an obvious oversight on this person's part. On another note, calling this person is gonna get old. I'll just call Nagito.
Hi Nagito.
As I don't have a means of getting their name right now. 2:44 to 2:47 I genuinely can't understand what you're saying here. When using a voice changer, it's important to make sure your voice sounds as coherent as possible still, even if you're using text-to-speech. I believe your point was that their argument doesn't make any sense. But with that in mind, your argument can't even be adequately understood. Though, if you want, I can explain their point. The point Nagito made here was that, despite it having been disproven that Jar's a racist, Jar's still exhibiting the problematic behaviors that made people perceive him as a racist in the first place, such as using racial slurs and making insensitive remarks.
When? As far as I'm aware, Jar has not used a single racist slur on his second channel. Even then, saying a word doesn't make you a racist.
And, when called out for this, he justifies his behavior rather than taking accountability and apologizing.
Because maybe the people calling him out are wrong.
The point is that, if Jar wasn't currently acting in a racist manner, he wouldn't be doing these actions and justifying himself when called out for it.
He's not.
They're saying, in effect, that if Jar had genuinely changed and was sorry for what he did, he wouldn't continue doing it, and wouldn't justify his actions when called out like this.
Those apologies from me were genuine, and I had Spoctor look over them to make sure they were good. And as far as YouTube apologies go, it went over way better than James Charles or Shane Dawson's apology, I'll tell you that much. I didn't double down on everything when I made my response to Prison Mate Luke. The guy's an idiot, he was easy to debunk. And he also took down his video, so I don't see what the problem is.
2:47 to 2:49 weird place to cut in, I know, but listen to what Nagito says here. They say because of my black intuition. Clone, this means the person in question is a person of color. Going back to the beginning where I talked about the potential foreseen need for this person to make their video, if they, as a person of color, feel as though Jar's actions are racist, and as though they can no longer tolerate him acting like this, they should have every right to make a video discussing his actions and why they personally deem those actions to be racist and problematic. Additionally, and I do apologize if I come off as insensitive here, I'm white and don't have a personal perspective on racial issues. Nagito may feel that they didn't initially want to talk about it because they didn't want one of their main or only identifying factors to who they are online to be the fact they're a person of color. Especially given, from what we heard before, this is among Nagito's earlier videos on YouTube, so they may not want to set a precedent that they'll regularly discuss racial issues in the commentary community. Point being, this confirmation makes the albeit cliché introduction to this video a bit more understandable, and, while I'm not trying to imply any malice of your intent with that point, it does come off as a bit insensitive to just say lol, I hate this stereotype in videos, especially since the video is probably monetized when that was likely Nagito's actual thoughts on the matter, not just a hyperbolic statement. 2:52 to 3:05 steered them wrong. How? Are you going to explain to your audience how Nagito was misled? We don't have any context to why they may be misinformed on Jar's behavior or intentions, and your interjection here merely for a job doesn't work because you don't explain why Nagito is wrong. You simply state that they are. Additionally, the wording on this initially, at least for me, was a bit confusing. Not entirely sure how it could be fixed, but maybe you should be more specific in the future. 3:21 Oh look, screenshots that show the full context to what's being talked about. Clones, take notes. 3:37 to 4:25 compared to the rest of the video. This is actually something I can almost commend you for. You play a clip in which Jar directly apologizes for reviving the Toby drama, explaining how he didn't intend to do so and the collab was simply released late. Problems with that, however. While Nagito doesn't directly reference it, the video itself was incredibly hostile towards Omnia and Kai. While a lot of commentators, such as Bonder Sprocket, Darkness Stone, Nezzy Monster, and the names Junkie, have a tendency to have a sarcastic edge to their videos, the video made against Omnia and Kai was particularly harsh and hostile.
Maybe it was deserved. Omnia and Kai are complete scumbags. They have outright said that a white person couldn't talk about race because they're white.
I really don't want to get into the topic of the race comments because that's a whole other can of worms that really didn't need to be fucking opened.
Okay, first off, yikes. Second, you're right. Toby isn't a mind reader, but neither is Omnia. Also, notice how both of us are speaking on their behalves right now? Just wanted to point that out. Omnia may have consented to the conversation, but she could not have expected Toby to go on a rant about racism versus racial insensitivity. Also, a can of worms that didn't need to be fucking opened? You're a white woman. Who are you to say that? That can of worms is open for me and Omnia both, every day of our lives as black people. If that BLM in your Twitter name meant anything, you would know how foolish it is to say this.
Who are you, as a white woman, to say this? Shut the fuck up, bro. That is actually racist.
While also discrediting their ability to, as people of color, talk about racial problems that Toby tastelessly referred to as a can of worms.
Kai and Omnia are allowed to speak on race, but not when it's not necessary to do so. Also, it wasn't Toby. It was harsh opinions.
Here's a video talking about the drama by Kai West for anyone interested. www.youtube.com web link. Here's another video by Vabs Updison addressing it. www.youtube.com web link.
No, please don't. I'm planning to do a commentary on Kai's video in the future. And Vabs Ison's video has already been covered by Carmen Raider.
And here's one by Omnia that also addresses it. www.youtube.com web link. Additionally, if you're able to show this clip of Jar directly addressing this and apologizing, why couldn't you show the full screenshots earlier? And why couldn't you elaborate on who this person was to your audience? The fact you have now shown us that you're able to provide the proper context behind the situation just calls your other claims into question. And thirdly, because there were racial aspects to this drama. Clones, I'm not aware of your actual race, but, unless you're also a person of color, it's not your place to accept an apology for a racially related commentary done on people of color. Again, I don't know your race, but if you're not a person of color, you don't have the same experiences as a person of color and thus your thoughts on the matter are purely based in a lack of understanding of the topic. While you can definitely speculate the sincerity of the apology based upon his current actions, whether Omnia, Kai, and other people of color forgive Jar should be up to them.
Okay, racist.
You are not a slighted party in this instance, so it's not your place to decide whether or not Jar should be forgiven. Hell, Nagito even makes note that they deemed the apology to be passive-aggressive and bullshit, which gives the impression that they felt the apology wasn't sincere and that he wasn't deserving of their forgiveness.
Don't act like you were giving me the benefit of the doubt. If you did give me the benefit of the doubt, a comment wouldn't have made you change your mind. Those apologies from me were genuine, and I had Spoctor look over them to make sure they were good. And as far as YouTube apologies go, it went over way better than James Charles or Shane Dawson's apology, I'll tell you that much. I didn't double down on everything when I made my response to Prismate Luke. The guy's an idiot, he was easy to debunk. And he also took down his video, so I don't see what the problem is.
And Nagito is right to make note that people of color don't have to accept apologies about racism.
Then why ask for an apology if you're not going to accept it?
Much like how victims of abuse, assault or other forms of discrimination don't. If someone feels uncomfortable with someone because of their past or current actions, they have every right to distance themselves from that person. You don't get to say how other people should interpret or react to an apology, because the person in question's own feelings on the matter are just as valid as yours. Possibly more so, if they're a person of color and you aren't. 4:55 to 6:35 Firstly. Damn, like, A large chunk of your commentary is just this clip. Like, I did the math, came around to about 17% of this video. While typically I'd say this is because you left in too much of the video. Given you haven't been doing a lot of elaboration on your points thus far, your video hasn't really been made much longer with your contributions, and when the main bulk of the length comes from the call-out video you're commentating on, it makes this whole video feel a bit unnecessary because you've merely compiled clips from these videos together, with short interjections in between that don't really give much elaboration. Secondly, note the wording Nagito initially used. Double down. From Googling the term double down, I found that it means strengthen one's commitment to a particular strategy or course of action, typically one that is potentially risky. That means that, in Nagito's eyes, this video where Jar commentated on prison mate Luke's call-out felt like Jar wasn't actually taking responsibility for anything he'd done wrong, and was instead making excuses or justifying himself, whilst also defending the video he made that, by his own admission, wasn't good.
Yeah! Wait, what? No! I apologized for the stuff I thought was true, and for the stuff that wasn't true I debunked. How the fuck did I double down?
Use the "I'm not racist, I have black friends" subscribers excuse.
I actually said the opposite. I know plenty of hoteps who date white guys and white girls. The most racist white guy I know dated a black girl. I literally said the opposite. This is a blatant lie. If a black person calls me racist, I'm not automatically racist. If a black person says I'm not racist, it doesn't automatically make me not racist.
And you said black friends / subscribers to dismiss our criticism of you.
People told me, hey, you're white. You don't get to decide what is and isn't racist. So then I pointed out that yes, my black roommate, Shady Do-Rags, Hi Fluffy 420, don't think I'm racist. And you guys are perfectly welcome to criticize me, but you're not welcome to lie about me. I like how you always call your lies criticisms and my criticisms attacks. It's pretty manipulative.
Even now you're showing that you haven't learned a thing.
Really? Because I sat down and spoken with my roommate plenty of times, and he has told me stories of things he had to deal with because of the way he was born. And I told him about struggles I had to deal with because of my autism, and we both came to a greater understanding of each other.
Like, y'all are screaming about accountability, holding other people accountable, and allyship, being allies POC, but refuse to check this man.
It's so blatant that no one has been able to use the definition against me. And if I'm so racist, why the fuck would I apologize?
Who the fuck are you to apologize to?
Even then, most of your examples are from years ago, so at best it would prove that I used to be racist. I'll admit, I used to be homophobic. I don't discriminate or have any bigoted intentions towards anyone of any race. Plenty of videos have already been made on me. I have apologized. I was held accountable. What more could you want? I'll tell you what they want. They want me gone, permanently. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm staying.
They ain't getting rid of me. They're not getting rid of me. I'm staying here. Fuck them.
Turkey Tom has done a few questionable things and has been called out by channels way bigger than himself, and he's still on YouTube. Keemstar is still around. iDub is still around. Pyrocynical is still around. Because saying the N-word doesn't get you permanently canceled. The only two things that can cancel you are pee-pee around kids and yourself.
Which, and I do apologize for the hypocrite card, haven't you also gotten on to doodleclones' case for her making commentaries on people doing commentaries on her disowned videos? Particularly here? www.youtube.com web link. I get you're not proud of this video and that your opinions have changed on the matter, but that's something you should definitely clarify here, because otherwise a passing viewer like myself who's aware of you from her "you're not good enough to be my faker" video, www.youtube.com web link, may see this and immediately make note of your hypocrisy on the matter. That video is among the videos you're more known for, so it's especially important to have the clarification that your opinion has changed here, and to explain to your audience why what prison mate Luke is doing is wrong in your eyes. Hypocrisy does not make you wrong, definitely, but it does make you a hypocrite. And that's something that really impacts your credibility, especially in a video where you fail to cite sources properly in a way that comes off as dishonest. 7:28 to 7:35. He never said that. Creepshow being racist doesn't mean that he isn't racist? Well, yeah, but doesn't that specifically contradict what you said earlier, about how Najito's ancestors led them wrong?
No, it doesn't.
You implied that Najito was wrong to come to the conclusion that Jar is racist, and now you're here saying that Jar is not saying that because Creepshow is racist that he's not racist. Which would imply that he's racist.
Your brain must be malfunctioning! Fresh out of the factory with no warranty, and already broken. What a pity.
By your own wording. Perhaps I can chalk this up to poor wording and you really meant even if he was racist. He didn't say that Creepshow also being racist didn't make him not such, but intentional or not, you contradict yourself here. 7:57 to 8:01. While I don't want to talk about the flip-flopping on whether or not Jar is racist, due to this making me believe that your previous point was poorly worded, I do want to make note that, again, you need to elaborate more here. You need to explain what all the points were that got debunked, because we, your audience, aren't aware. You need to provide some examples of claims Creepshow made, and how they were debunked. Else, especially when considering your lack of elaboration on who this person is and your suspiciously presented screenshots, we don't have any reason to believe you have evidence or examples to present. We just see you making a positive claim with absolutely no evidence of it being true, and us being expected to just believe it at face value. 8:02 to 8:09. I understand the notion of skipping if someone's being repetitive or has an outro, that makes sense. However, you can clarify what Najito is repeating in context that point still. Sure, it wouldn't feel credible because you haven't linked the original video or made note of who this person is. So we can't say for certain if they have, but that's an issue this point would have regardless of whether you tackled the point or not. To fix this problem, you could have just played Najito making this argument or point one time, argued that, and then ended the video, but instead you just ignore it with the point that they just repeat themselves, which we can even check to be true because there's no means of figuring out who this person is or where the video is from to be seen in this entire video. And, if there is a part where here's a means of doing so, I'd love to see it. Additionally, do you not have any final thoughts to give this person a summary of the problems with their video? If you don't, that's fine typically, but given most of your points in this video were vague, minimalist and short, having a summation of your criticisms could have helped Najito to understand what about their video they need to work on. Which segues comfortably into my final thoughts. Clones, I know that you have a lot of notoriousness behind yourself, and while I definitely do have issues with your behavior on those grounds, I'm only going to be talking about my issues with this video in particular. For one thing, you gave very little actual elaboration on what you're talking about in the video, with most of your points just being Jar's video clips as though they speak for themselves. It comes off as lazy to do this, because you aren't actually providing a means to explain what you're talking about. There were some times in your video where I had trouble understanding what you were trying to say due to this raw lack of elaboration, and it's definitely something you need to work on. Another thing is that you need to provide more examples as to what you're talking about. For example, when talking about the accusations Creepshow made that supposedly got debunked, it would have strengthened your argument to possibly make note of some of those claims and how they were debunked, but instead, you just say that they were debunked without elaboration, evidence or examples. Lastly, you really need to give citations on your work, especially towards who your target is. I've had to call them Najito this entire time and go purely off of your own video for my commentary because I had no way of finding out where the original video came from. Even just linking the original video in the description would have been enough, but you didn't do that, and it just left us unaware of who you were even commentating on. And, if you did make note of this person's name in your video at some point, well, the fact I didn't hear it the first time through, even when I replayed portions of the video to try and get the full understanding of your points, means that it definitely wasn't made clear enough. To fix this, I recommend, either in your description or title, including the channel name of the person you're commentating against, so that people can go trace back to who you're talking about, as well as providing a link to the original link in the description. All in all, this video fails to actually directly argue most points, choosing to instead play clips or use shorthand interjections as if they speak for themselves. And you really need to learn to put more elaboration and explanation into your points so that you can better argue the videos you're arguing. I hope this was helpful.
It was. Thanks. Now I hope you all have a nice day. And don't be a bully.